We are here to welcome, we are here to see again, and we are here to honor our new leader, Reverend Frederick Douglass Haynes. Will you put your hands together for that? Before Reverend Haynes comes, let me simply say and give all honor and credit where credit is due, and thank the living legend himself for leading us to this point. Can we put our hands together for our leader, the Reverend Jesse Jackson? Come on, everybody. Reverend, we love you. We love you. All of us are excited about PUSH going forward. All of us are excited about where we are. And I give you our leader, Reverend Frederick Douglass Haynes.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Let me express my appreciation, first of all, to the icon himself, the Reverend Jesse Lewis Jackson Sr., not only for what he means to us, but for what history is going to record as truly one of our social justice generals. As a matter of fact, the scholar Michael Eric Dyson often says that on Mount Rushmore of leadership for the world, you have to include always the Reverend Jesse Lewis Jackson Sr. And so we thank God for him, and we reverently and respectfully and appreciatively recognize where we are because of his sacrifice, because of his prophetic witness, because of his leadership, and because of his service. And so, Reverend Jackson, thank you for being Reverend Jackson. Thank you for who you are. And I almost want to say thank you for tapping me to succeed you, but you don't really succeed Jesse Jackson. And so I want to be real clear about that. Last night, I was preaching at Trinity, and someone said to me, I can't wait to see what you are going to do. My response was, this ain't no me thing, this is a we thing. Because Jesse Jackson is a one-of-a-kind leader, prophet, servant. And God only made one Jesse Lewis Jackson. And so given that reality, I recognize that this can never be a me thing, it has to be a we thing. And what I'm excited about is the fact that he has always been unapologetically Reverend Jesse Jackson, with an emphasis on Reverend. This is a man of faith, a preacher, a prophet, and a moral leader. And for him to do what he has done it in the context of Chicago. And when I was growing up, as far as I was concerned, some of the baddest preachers, faith leaders on the planet have always been in Chicago. And so recognizing that only a Chicago could serve as a base for a Jesse Jackson, I please want you to recognize that as far as I'm concerned, that the need for what you have brought and will continue to bring to the mission and prophetic witness of Rainbow Push is even greater now than it has been in the past. Because again, God made one Jesse Jackson. And so now it ain't gonna be a me thing, it's gonna have to be a we thing. And again, when you look at the churches, the preaching that comes out of Chicago, the faith witness that comes out of Chicago, crossing both denominational and religious lines, this becomes for me the capital of faith leadership in this nation. With apologies to no one, when it comes to faith leadership, No other city in this country does it like Chicago. So please know I appreciatively recognize that. And as far as I'm concerned, it's my responsibility to build on that. And so I'm excited about the possibilities. I'm excited about what God is going to do. And I want you to also know that for me, it's going to be very important to continue the partnership with each and every one of you, because the beautiful thing I love about it is that you are on the ground, on the front lines, doing the work, and it's my responsibility to show up, come alongside, and support the work that you are doing, because as far as I'm concerned, this must be, it has to be a partnership. So I want to say, first of all, thank you. Thank you to Reverend Jackson for basically showing us what ministry looks like from the sanctuary to the streets to the corporate suites. Thank you, Reverend Jesse Lewis Jackson, for a ministry that has made a difference in the pulpit. I testify without apology that one of the great homiletical influences on my life is this man right here, Jesse Lewis Jackson Sr. I say that because I was challenged by him in a conversation. He said that we are often good at preaching about the sin within, but we rarely get around to preaching about the sin we live in. That hermeneutic blew my mind, because he was basically saying racism is a sin we live in. Economic injustice is a sin we live in. Any systemic injustice that dehumanizes, impoverishment is a sin we live in. And so, again, unapologetically, I have learned about preaching from Jesse Jackson, who marries, here it is, the social with the spiritual. And so thank you, Reverend Jackson, for letting us know that you can not only be pious, but you can also be political, as you wed in our faith tradition, Jesus to justice. In other faith traditions, you wed justice to your faith. And so I thank you for that, because that homiletic, that hermeneutic has influenced me and so many of us. And I salute him again for ministry in the pulpit, but also that hits the pavement. One of the things that Reverend Jackson has said so often is that preachers also have a responsibility to know how to fight injustice. And so I know that we cannot do this unless we know how to fight. And so given all of that, as I share with you in brief what it is we will look to do, I share with you this. Number one, Reverend Jackson, well, let me say thank you again to you. Thank you for showing up today. Thank you for the way you've always shown up. Thank you again for being, as far as I'm concerned, the model of what faith leadership ought to look like in every city in this country. I thank you for that, and I want to say at the beginning, thank you. Now, very briefly, I share with you what it is we will attempt to do going forward by way of vision. Reverend Jackson has laid a foundation that, for me, offers the blueprint for our vision going forward. When you think about Rainbow Push with roots in Operation Breadbasket, you cannot help but think about our responsibility to fight for economic justice. We must continue the fight for economic justice, because income inequality is still a thing. We've got to fight for economic justice, because the sad reality is Edward Bloom, who is the mastermind, or should I say the devil mind, behind the attack to abolish affirmative action, is not stopping there. Anything having to do with diversity, equity, and inclusion, he's going after. So much so that what? The Fearless Fund, run by black women, trying to provide equity funding to women of color owned businesses. After all, black women are the most founded when it comes to businesses in this country, but the least funded when it comes to businesses in this country. Now, if Edward Bloom is coming for black women and we don't fight back, there's something that basically dishonors the legacy of Rainbow Push with roots in Operation Breadbasket. And so whatever else we're going to do, we're going to side with the Fearless Fund. We're going to side with those who are trying to build businesses in our community, because there's something devilishly wrong about black women being the most founded when it comes to businesses, but least funded when it comes to businesses. And so Operation Breadbasket is still influencing our vision, and as a consequence, economic justice is what we will continue to fight for. But also, when it comes to what we will continue to fight for, and how appropriate is this? Jesse Jackson, back in the day, hit the schools telling kids, your mind is a pearl. You can accomplish anything in the world. Jesse Jackson was rapping before the founding of hip-hop. And so with that being the case, he was going in our schools, encouraging educational excellence and fighting for educational equity back in the day. That's the foundation that provides our blueprint going forward. And that means, listen, in this day where you have the governor of Florida and his cohort in Texas who are running to be the grand wizard of the nation, both of them have determined to what? Attack education. And I think it was Carter G. Woodson who said, as he surveyed the distortion of black people in literature and in history, Carter Woodson said there would be no lynching if it did not begin in our schools. And so what DeSantis and Abbott and so many others are doing, as DeSantis says what? Africana studies has no real value. Greg Abbott dismantling everything as it relates to diversity, equity, and inclusion in our schools in Texas. What is that saying? They're setting the tone for what happened in Jacksonville. A tone is set by policies like that. And so we have a responsibility, looking at the roots of Breadbasket and Push, knowing what Push Excel, thank you, Reverend Jeanette Wilson, for your leadership, has done and continues to do. We want Push Excel in every city where we have 1,000 churches connected. If we're going to have in these major cities where our preachers and pastors and faith leaders are, 1,000 churches connected, we need to have Push Excel in every single city. And so we're going to continue the fight for educational equity and push for educational excellence. But also, we have a responsibility to be that, here it is, Jesse Jackson, that emergency response. Whenever stuff hits in this nation, no, in the world, Jesse Jackson was what? They say Johnny on the spot. No, Jesse on the spot. And so from Armenia to Iraq to Chicago to Dallas, wherever something went down, Jesse Jackson was there. Rainbow Push showed up. And so that kind of emergency response will be our continued mission and ministry at Rainbow Push. But then there's the engagement politically. He doesn't get enough credit for it, but he deserves it. How you gonna register between 84 and 88? 9 million new voters that literally changed and transformed the trajectory of politics in this country. And then, as I was sharing with Tavis Smiley on this program, Jesse Jackson did something mind-blowing for me. 88, he changed the rules. And because he changed the rules in 88, Barack Obama becomes the Democratic nominee for the presidency of the United States of America. We know about that. We celebrate that. But here's what we often forget. And y'all know it here in the Chi because y'all are up to date like that. But also, Jesse Jackson did something that still blows my mind. He's the only person who has ever run for a nomination, does not get the nomination, but has political coattails so that other folk literally get elected to office or in positions of power because of his candidacy. You don't have Ron Brown leading the Democratic Party without Jesse Jackson in 88. You don't have mayors, congresspersons getting elected without what Jesse Jackson did. And as we move into 24 and beyond, if Jesse Jackson could register 9 million voters in those years, can we not pick up that baton and engage ourselves politically? And watch this. I'm a man of faith. God is something else. Guess where the Democratic Convention is going to be in 2024? Right up here in Chicago. Now, you can't come here, Democratic Party in Chicago in 2024, and not stop by Rainbow Push headquarters and get your agenda for your platform going forward. We ought to have a huge say-so in what the Democratic Party platform is going to look like in 2024 as we register voters around the country. So I'm hyped about that. I got to give y'all one more, and I'm done. I promise you I'm a preacher, so you know I'm going to have a few more things as I close. So this is my first close. And my first close is we've also got to add the reality that climate change is impacting our communities like no other. Environmental racism is literally killing us. I read a study that talked about the fact that in our communities, as hot as it's been this summer, it is that much hotter or that much more hot in communities of color, communities where you have, for example, Cancer Alley in Louisiana, West Side Chicago, South Side of Dallas. Please understand, if it's 108 in Dallas like it was yesterday, that ain't the temperature south of downtown. South of downtown, the temperature is going to be anywhere from 112 to 113 to 114. We have to be on the front lines in the fight against environmental injustice. And so that is going to be our mission. Jesse Jackson, the rap artist, put it like this: they create the pollution, we have to be about the solution. And so that's what we're going to be about. That, my beloved sisters and brothers, is just a brief example, a window into what we'll be doing going forward. But again, I say, I can't do it by myself. You have done it with Reverend Jackson in the past. I'm pleading, I'm praying. Let's do it together going forward. Chicago is still the faith-based capital of activism that is impactful. I'm asking you to join with me. Let me join with you in engaging in activism, prophetic activism, because if ever this nation, this world needs moral leadership, it's right now. Moral leadership that speaks truth to power, that gives a voice to those who are voiceless. Moral leadership that basically says God is not pleased unless the hungry are being fed, unless those in prison are being visited and receiving justice, unless strangers find themselves being welcomed. Being welcomed. That's what we are about, and that's what we'll be doing going forward. May God bless you. Thank you so much for showing up today. Not just today, but thank you for always showing up, because that's what y'all are about. I appreciate you, I love you, and I praise God for you. Thank you.
Come on, Chicago, let's put our hands together again as we welcome Reverend Dr. Freddie Haynes. Amen. That's right, come on, give it to him. Let him know we're happy that he's in town. We're happy that he's here. We're happy that he accepted the responsibility of running this organization. And we know that he is well able. I don't know about you, but I'm encouraged to even hear some tips of the iceberg of the way he's thinking and how we're going to move forward. And now the man, the myth, the legend, the incomparable, the one and only one, the Reverend Jesse Louis Jackson. Can we put our hands together, get up on our feet for our leader, Reverend Jesse Jackson.
We used to meet like this on Friday at Fellowship Baptist Church, 12 to 2, and we discussed the grievances of our time. That time we couldn't get Johnson products on the store shelves, we couldn't get Jet and Ebony and chain stores, we broke up all that. Chicago became the centerpiece of national change. Harold was a breakthrough artist, but Harold was one foot in the machine, one independence. We had a radio show one Sunday morning. We all said, well, you know, you should break up Jane Burns' coronation. What coronation? Well, she'll be sworn in next week. This week will be the swearing in of the Chicago Fest. Stevie Wonder will be here and all the real artists will be here. Come free liquor, free beer, popcorn, hot dogs, transportation for seniors. She's going to pro stage each night, wave her hand. She's delivered something for us. So I wanted to say, well, and somebody turned down Stevie Wonder and OJ's for a boycott. Doesn't make sense. That won't work. My face said, if it's more than right, it must be politically right as well. We met in this room on that Wednesday, determined 52 organizations. We didn't meet that often. We determined we were going to boycott Chicago Fest. My job was to call Stevie Wonder. Stevie Wonder agreed not to cross that bigger line. $200,000 contract he had, and we were off to the races. Harold said, I'll run if you put on 40,000 new voters and 250,000 on the table. Well, we put on 400,000 new voters in Chicago, 500,000 on the table. He ran, he won. Set the pace for the nation, other cities around the nation. Now, the big issue was how do we take blacks, left Mississippi, left the South, running from Luncheon. I'm going to give you guys a book today, next week, Luncheon in the South. None of the blacks were lynched in Mississippi. We ran from the South in terror. Dr. Howard came up here from Chicago, Mississippi in a hearse. We came in terror and fear. It became the midway point. Now we have another issue, a moral issue. Let the Lord build the house. Let the Lord build the house. We labor in vain. The Lord builds the house. Worth the fight. Now the big struggle today is how should we deal with the neighbors of ours called migrants? These are neighbors. Slave trade went across Latin America before it got North America, straight across from Southern Africa, West Africa. So I many blacks in the county down there. So they killed 46 million Indians. 46 million of them were killed. They enslaved us. Then in 1619, 157 years of slavery, we jumped out and we joined the army at the end of slavery. It's important to understand. We joined the army, talk about terms like liberty and all that. The master said, what should we do with black people? Well, they wanted to free us too. The South would not support them. The South, the amount of cotton that we were picking, our economy. We got promotions from no person to 3/5 human. Another 90 years went by, we wouldn't go away. Through lawsuits and all that stuff, violations. Supreme Court ruled we had no right to bound respect. No right to say bound respect. I mean, they can rape our women, overseas on us. And so Lincoln, we were going to save the Union. Lincoln's fight was the Union first, us second.
Right.
Lincoln's fight was the Union first. If I have to save the Union, if I send them back to Africa, I'd do that. If I could, they said that I would do that. If I have to free them, I'll even do that, save the Union. So the Union was saved in the war. Guess what? We were left at the hands. Supreme Court ruled of apartheid in 1896. We had no rights in 1897. I remember I'm having a little problem talking with my partners. Please hear me, brothers and sisters. Brother Bates, you're preaching yourself. My friends, we must know our struggle to be able to lead people out of our burden. I'm going to get you some material. We should meet again Friday at 12 o'clock. And these are numbers. We must tackle the issue of from across the border. Across the border because our policies for black and brown people. One policy, trade Canada white people, don't trade with black people. When after the war, there's a big plaque in southern Georgia. Taking the Haitians, there's over 1,000 troops, kept Southern America free. World War I interventionism, all that stuff. Watch big guy. We woke it up. Those who went back to Haiti, freed Haiti. The big sob of the military guys, the point he said, France packing. Our response to our ally, Haiti, embargoed them for 30 years. Our response to an ally. Now, everybody hated Haiti, white people because black people were in Haiti, was south of America. Africa was in colonialism, French, German, Portuguese, Dutch reform. We were Haiti. We cannot let Haiti remain the poorest country in the hemisphere. Say nothing about Haiti. Haiti comes to the border. We send them back on the airplane. We let Latinos come in. Some of them, our policies created the Haitian crisis, the Latino crisis. We must not let them see people who came on the national issue. And then States have the right to send them to cities headed by blacks. Haiti became the most hated country because it was the freest black people, and they did it with military might. We're not letting Haiti remain off the agenda. Now, the people who come in, they want labor rights. We should welcome them. This is an international issue. It cannot be solved by states and local governments. Some in Chicago and New York and LA, this is the black mayors. There's several, why should they have to go through to get to Chicago? Go to they came to the United States and then leave walking 1,200 miles from Chicago or LA or New York. They came looking for the right to be free. Now, who will take the moral position? The federal government must fund the money, black poor people, black unemployed people. It's not time to raise the right issue. Because we don't want our poor people. It's sacred. It's so sacred. Why we fall for them, really? Should black people repeat? If black people who are poor are so sacred, why we we fight for them too? Time now is we should fight for the immigrants. Gives our president an international platform. We must be seen across the nation fighting for them. They're not a threat to our jobs, not a threat to bus drivers and doctors and lawyers. Cannabis is. Cannabis. So a recreation job. It's legal now. People in high school have a little recreation drug. Taking care of your job as a nurse, doctor, bus driver. You hear me now? The middle class jobs are now, you can't get if you have cannabis in your bloodstream. Y'all, it's tricky. It's tricky business. We negotiated a deal with the hospital 3 weeks ago. Blacks who are nurses cannot get a job, have in their stream drugs. A lot to be said about that. I letting us know we must fight for those who own drugs to get free. I want us to go to churches, I want us to go to schools and fight the gun violence. We must fight gun violence. We preach about it, we got to act about it. We got to fight the gun violence and anti-Semitism. Any form of racism that exists, we have to lead. Our authority is moral authority. So, President, look forward to your leadership, sir. A lot of who's going to be number two? So I'm going to be number two.
He knows more stuff than we will ever know. Amen. He has more stories about real life. We've read about history. He is history. And I am so excited that I have lived during the era when I could hear directly from Jesse Jackson about the experiences that he has had. Can we give him one more hand? Now, I don't think we all need a microphone to do this, but Dr. Haynes, we're going to give everybody a chance to ask you questions about whatever it is. And anything you don't want to answer, just say, I don't want to answer. Just, but who has the first question for Dr. Haynes? And we do hope that all of our questions are leading to our continued involvement. Amen. All right.
Harris is the she got in the pipe fitters, 7,000 of them in Chicago. 44 to the black. Now, it's $91 an hour. Hello?
91?
No. And so we are a little bit about what I'll do.
Good afternoon. My name is Harrison Maley. I'm a business representative for the Pipefitters Local 597 here in Chicago. We're a building construction trade, and we perform all of the piping associated with everything, heating, air conditioning. We run the pipelines in all the buildings. And we're currently taking applications for young men, especially black men, to join our organization. We give out our applications every quarter, in which we take in members. But the applications are available at the first Wednesday of every month. And, you know, with this trade, our young men can grow up to be prosperous. But a lot of them don't have the information about who we are. And Reverend asked me to be here today and give him some information about our trade and how we can recruit young men and women, not just men, but women too, into our organization, in which they can earn a good living, have benefits, health care, and be able to provide for their families. So, yes, sir.
Y'all hear this now. 7,000 tradesmen. Well, they're not even fighting that fight. What kind of pipes are you talking about? Pipes.
Pardon me?
Pipes.
Well, like the Reverend was saying, we are a local of 10,000 members, and we have 7,000 actively working. And we want that number to grow. And I want to be part of it, and Reverend has asked me to be part of it. So with Operation Push here, if you guys have individuals that are interested in becoming a tradesman and earning a journeyman's card with their knowledge, and with that knowledge and that journeyman's card, they can go wherever they want to go. You know, it's available. So if you have any other information.
I got a question. I just retired. Is it any age limit? Is it? So let me say this. Anybody with an interest in what he said, he's not leaving, right?
I am leaving. I do have another meeting to attend, but I have left my
Okay.
information.
We have his card. If you got interest, somebody in your church, young people in your church, Freddie, they discriminating against older people. We might have to target them. But for right now, since he's here, but anybody who wants the information, get the cards, all right? We appreciate it. Thank you. We appreciate it. Who's the next person with the next question?
Right
next
here.
Question? All right, go ahead.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. My name is Gerald Morrow, and I am a proud educator for over 33 years in Chicago Public Schools. Reverend Haynes, welcome to Chicago. I'm pretty sure you've been here 1,000 times, but formally welcome you to the educational lens, if I may. There has been educational brutality committed against our children. We are in educational hospice in our community with our most marginalized and challenging children, especially our African-American boys. Pastor Meeks, what you tried to do with Arnie Duncan over 20 years ago, the reasons why you tried to do it, they're still relevant. We are graduating hopeless, skillless, and functional illiterate children in the African-American community. And it has been systemically done. Not only have they disinvested in our children, our schools, and our community, there has been an attack on our black leaders as well. And all of us have not been removed for PPP loans. regardless of what was in the news from the Sun-Times. Some of us have been removed, like myself, and I don't even know what the charges are. Some of us have been removed because one was his religious affiliation. One black woman was removed when they changed the name to Harriet Tubman, and she was attacked by the staff. Dr. Gibson is here as well. What the young man just said around what trades can offer, they are not being offered in our school. Now, I can understand that some people may be affiliated with our private sector trade unions. They do not serve us. They do not. The data actually shows that the IBEWs and the others have not served our children. And it's a wake-up call for all of us. As the words of Malcolm X, the chicken has come home to roost. One of the reasons that you're seeing the violence in our neighborhoods is because college was not the choice of everyone. The data shows that less than 12% of African-American children are going to college. The data shows, per the University of Chicago, that 73% of the children in Chicago public schools who go to college don't finish. So what does that look like for our boys? It looks like drug dealing. It looks like carjacking. They have been miseducated or uneducated, and it has been systemically done. So the disinvestment in our schools, the disinvestment in our leaders, and I will hold accountable the African-American voice in our city or the lack thereof. And I'm asking of your leadership to make sure that we can ask this question and answer it ourselves. What is the educational agenda in the African-American community? Other communities have stated what they want for their children, for their community, in their schools. The African-American community has not come together to ask that question, elevate that question, and list demands of what we want in our schools. Trades have been put in our schools, but they're not put in from a lens that's going to support our children, especially our boys. If you want to take the gun out of their hand, put the hammer in their hand as early as 6th grade. Do not wait till their junior year. You must do it in elementary schools, and it has to be systemically done. So the ask is make sure that we do not expose our African-American leaders, especially our males. Representation matters. Black boys cannot be what they do not see. And if the African-American community does not elevate this as a crisis, this educational brutality, this educational hospice, if we do not do it, there is no such thing as a white Trojan horse that's going to come in and save our boys. If not, then we will have fatherless homes. We have lack husbands. We won't have African-American males in the community in that group. If we do not address this issue, the next 25 years will look like the previous 25 years, where our children and our communities have been underserved. God bless everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. I mean, the answer is we need his leadership and insight to craft an educational agenda. I mean, that's the answer right there. We need an educational agenda, and I believe your wisdom and skill set can help us craft that. Thank you.
Peace and blessings to you all. It's almost an extension of what he was speaking on in regards to our youth. And I see Reverend every week. I'm over at Fellowship Chicago. My name is Kente Kaiser, and I'm Chicago's #1 inspirational speaker, rapper, and poet. And so I'm asking, now, it's one thing to deal with the education, but if our young people are dealing with so much more before they even get to school, my question is, what is the game plan to reach our youth aggressively right now with all this violence going on? Like, what is Rainbow Push, doing to help combat some of this violence even before they get to school? That's a whole nother piece. Education, then they dealing with so much right now. So I'm just trying to see what's the game plan with Rainbow Push.
And again, bro, thank you so much for your work, and not only for that insight, because our kids have to overcome so much just to get to class. And so if we don't deal with what they have to overcome to get to class, then we cannot expect them to succeed once they get to school. And so I respect and appreciate that. And I really want to talk to you about what you recommend we do, because only the insights of those who are on the front lines will help us develop solutions that really work. So I really appreciate that. I feel that. And again, I need your partnership. We need your partnership so we can address before and after school. It's both and.
Good afternoon. My name is Princess Shaw. I'm from the Lawndale community, and I got invited here. But I do a lot of what I call community connections, right? Because at the end of the day, the system has deemed an activist as a troublemaker or someone that causes problems. So I have kind of rebranded myself and called myself a community connector. But my concern comes because myself, as well as some of the youth on the West Side, have taken an initiative to go ahead on, and when this flooding happened, and a lot of seniors did not have any hope, we went in those basements and helped those seniors out. But at the end of the day, I think we need to be looking at the systemic way that they are doing these applications, because I've gone in with some seniors where they have told the seniors like, oh, you filled out the application wrong. And I'm like, how do you fill out an application wrong to inform someone that your basement flooded? So I think, and then when I reached out to the city for the Department of Aging, you can pretty much say that the Department of Aging doesn't exist anymore because they merged that department with another department, DFSS, and they already have enough stuff going on there. So what they're doing is slowly but surely merging our seniors out, the people that have, and the elders that have the actual knowledge, in order to spearhead it and give it to other people. So what are we doing to make sure, as a stronghold front, that everyone is working together to make sure that these systematic things, like they were talking about with the education, with the youth, to make sure that everybody is put in place in order to make sure this does not continue to happen?
Thank you for that. That's heartbreaking. And Bishop was updating me in terms of what Congressman Danny Davis is doing. And so thank you for sharing that. And that's heartbreaking. But thank you for being here and for being a community connector. But listen, ain't nothing wrong with being an activist and a troublemaker.
Love and peace. My name is Pastor Victoria Brady. I'm the pastor of Restoring Hope Ministries International. I do want to say thank you for pulling this gathering together, which is of paramount necessity. Based on the brother that talked about the educational curriculum, I want to speak on that briefly, and then I am going to be obedient and ask a question. So the first question is based on a letter that was written by one of our strongest activists, community connectors, queen, mother, whatever you want to call her, Mama Doris Lewis, and a group of concerned citizens. We're asking, why are black clergymen silent, and that's clergy women too, why are black clergymen silent on Governor Pritzker's sex education bills, Senate Bill 818 and House Bill 267? Pastor Haynes, you may or may not be aware of the alternative sex. I'm gonna wait. You may or may not be aware of the bill, the alternative sex education bill that is alive and well in the state of Illinois, that is teaching our young people at the age of at kindergarten age, which is about 5 years old, about alternative sex alternatives, about alternative sex options. This is a curriculum that this curriculum really imposes very strongly against parenting. The work of sex education at this level is the work of the parents and not the educational system. Now let me tell you why I'm saying this real briefly and real quickly. This, and you can look it up for yourself. It's a public law. I have copies of it here. And what we're saying is that this particular curriculum, it promotes homosexual behavior, teaching children sexual pleasure, promoting solo or mutual masturbation, eroticizing condom use, promoting early sexual independence, failing to establish abstinence as the goal, promoting gender confusion, teaching abortion and contraception use, promoting peer-to-peer sex ed and sexual rights advocacy, undermining traditional values and beliefs, violating or undermining parental rights, and referring children to harmful resources. I could go on, but I want to use my time for something else. This is a law. This is a public law, and one thing I want to point out while I have the mic is that this particular curriculum, you have to opt out. So if you have a grandbaby, your grandchild in CPS schools, you need to check that school, because if you don't opt out or the parent don't opt out, they automatically get these lessons. And we are not speaking against any LGBTQ plus group at all, but we are concerned about our children. Now, my question, I did ask, why are we so silent? Part of it may be because many of us don't know about it. But we're responsible for something once we know. That's why I waited till you were done talking, sir, because this is extremely important. This really interrupts the black family. The black family, that's the structure that God himself put in place. You have to really dig into this. Now, my other question, aside from this question, is how do we best advocate for the homeless, the black homeless population in Chicago? Those that long before anyone else arrived on any buses were already sleeping in the parks, already sleeping in their cars. I need your car, sir, because right now my heart is breaking, because I have a young man that I care very deeply for sleeping in his car because he does not have a roof over his head. I need that information. This is real, and we're not, and many of us, I'm understanding that the New York Times, I think it was the New York Times or some media outlet had the nerve and the audacity to say that black people don't care about the issue of illegal immigrants being in our cities, and that is not true. We do care, and what we care about is our people. We care about those that are sleeping in the park, sleeping on the Wacker Drive, sleeping in their cars, sleeping on park benches, wherever they can lay their head. We're concerned. So my question is, how do we best advocate not only for the youth and the homeless and the less fortunate and the vulnerable, but how do we best advocate for all of these groups unapologetically, us first? Us first. How do we best do that? I point to two things as I close my comments and question. You asked about the educational agenda. Everyone, there is a long-term strategic plan that covers black people in this country for 100 years. It's a 100-year plan. Brother Reverend, am I telling the truth? I believe it can be looked up on the National Black Agenda Consortium's website. The National Black Agenda Consortium website has a long-term strategic plan that covers us for 100 years. 100 years. The other thing that I want to point out as a solution is our unity. We have to unite in order to get anything done, and I know many of you know that. I'd like to invite you to look at a film that we produced here in Chicago that shows how we work together, how we're working in our village. We're not talking about people getting shot up and killed and all of that. We're showing the other side of Chicago, the positive side, the side where people like us are working every day to make a change. Please take a quick moment to look at YouTube. I'm not promoting me. I'm not promoting anything except the film, the beauty of the film, which is that we have hope and we can do whatever we choose to do. There's nothing beyond us when we decide it's what we want to do. So please go to YouTube and look up The Other Side of Chicago. Please do it. You will not be disappointed. Thank you. God bless you.
Yeah, God bless you, Pastor. Thank you. So let me just say this in response. As you know, I am new, and so I'm still listening for, answers. And so that is why we were in discussion as you were speaking, because we were discussing exactly what you were sharing. And so one of the things we will continue to do is to have gatherings like this so that we can hear from you, but also partner with you in coming up with solutions. So thank you for this, because again, I want to make sure that we hear you and also work with you. Thank you. Thank you. Right, you really are. Right, and let me just say this. At 2 o'clock, we have a very important press conference, and your support and presence means everything. As you know, the mayor has done some work around the sad reality that people who have come to this country looking for hope and help are being treated as political pawns. And so they are sent to, as Reverend Jackson said, cities where the leadership is black. And so what we are going to do is basically make a moral appeal, not only supporting what this mayor is doing, but also calling on the federal government to step up and invest so that we can do the right thing to those that the Bible refers to as the stranger, as the foreigner. So we need your moral support and stance with us. So thank you very much. But at 2 o'clock, we do have that. So I want you to know that as you are framing your questions.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Maureen Forte. I'm a doubly elected official in the village of East Hazelcrest, where I serve as the president of the library district, and I'm the first black elected official female in an all-white community where I serve as a councilwoman. I'm also on strike. I'm an actress with SAG, so I'm on strike. No residual checks or anything, so I just want to let you know who you're talking to. Also, I want to piggyback on the education system. I'm a bilingual teacher, starting out as speaking Polish, and now I'm bilingual with Spanish. But the school system has dummied down our children to the point as cursive writing is no longer being taught in the school. That's the biggest issue for me. Because it's not being taught, all of our historical documents are written in cursive. So what does that mean? We're going all the way back to days of slavery. When I asked my parents to escribe tu nombre aquí, they cannot write it. They have to print it. So we're getting back to the X, marking the X, and it's all by design. It's a political movement. So I would like to see the we, not the me or the you, but the we, work on some legislation to incorporate that cursive writing back into the school system, because it's a must.
Thank you for that. Thank you. Thank you. Yes. And when the mic is coming to you, okay, sister? There's a gentleman first. Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
How you doing, family? Sir, welcome to Chicago. I'm gonna make this as brief as possible so I don't be super long. My name is Marquin McDonald. I live inside this community. I am the co-founder and president of an organization called Watch and Guard Chicago. We do community patrol, neighborhood watch in this community. I work with several individuals inside this space right here who have helped raise me and do work to do violence prevention. I also work in West Garfield Park. I work with the CSCC, which you should get familiar with in the city, which is the Community Safety Coordination Center. My question to you is, what is your plan to bring about the healing inside our organizations? I work with the youth. I know we got the shorties out here and they all shooting each other and acting a fool. But if we want to have an honest conversation, a lot of people in the rooms, churches and other organizations do the same thing the shorties do but they don't do it with pistols. That's the only thing they don't have. We hating on each other, we backbite, we say we don't want to work with this person, we don't want to work with that person, I don't like this individual over here, I don't want to work with them because they get that amount of funding over here. So the reason why we're not getting results the way we need to get is because the adults are acting just like the kids, they just don't have the guns. So my question to you is, how can we facilitate a true and honest, transparent and open conversation about actual healing amongst ourselves as well, because so we can get rid of the internal fighting and a lot of the bickering that's holding us back from actually being effective within inside our communities.
Wow. That's the question of the ages, and I promise you it's not limited to Chicago. It was set in place, especially as it relates to us. It goes as far back as enslavement. And so we have a responsibility to look beyond what has been imputed onto us, and instead, as you were saying, look creatively for ways to bring about healing amongst us, because once we heal us, then we can effectuate healing in our community. So I want to thank you for that. I think that needs to be brought up, discussed, and dealt with, and we will make that a priority. Thank you so much. And thank you for your work. You on the front lines. Thank you.
Amen. To God be the glory. I'm Reverend Dr. Nancy Sanders, and I would just like to say that what Reverend was saying in his introduction, I use push all the time as my weapon. I do. I don't call you, but I use you. Amen. I use you, and I use the name. My sister was in a serious accident in Birmingham, Alabama. They had to cut her out, and they left her in the hall at the UAB hospital all day. Did not see her from 10 o'clock in the morning to 3:30. So when my family called and told me, I'm just saying it for some encouragement. I don't have a question and I don't have any comment. But I'm just saying for encouragement that at 3:30 I called the administrative office and I told them that my sister had been there all day without being seen. She's 70 years old, complaining with her heart that her heart was hurting. And I told them, I said, I tell you what, I'm from Chicago, Illinois, and I know people. I know push. And I tell you in a minute, my sister said doctors and my family said that doctors came and took her out the hall and seen her immediately. I'm just saying, we may not call you and let you know that something is happening, but we sure use you. And I just want you to know that we know that you have power to do something for us if we need you. That's all I'm saying. And sometimes we need to encourage sometimes to let people know that we see them and that we know what they can do. And all of us sometimes can't do everything at the same time. So God bless you, and I just want to let you know that I love your efforts, I love what you're doing, and I do use you. And your name means something, even in Birmingham, Alabama. Amen.
Brothers and sisters, let me say to you right now, there's great concerns. We meet every Friday, 12 to 2. Those are great concerns. Work on it. Let me say this to you, Brother Braxton, CTS, and others of us. I'm going to be, I'm not retiring. I'm going to skip over. You better start teaching ministers how to fight. Ministers know how to articulate, you know how to fight.